Now, let me start by saying that there's nothing more intelligent or more adaptable than the human body, mind, and spirit. As we break through these veils of illusionment, we are fine-tuning our light. We are in a place where we are being asked to be a beacon in this world that is truly lost. If you find yourself questioning reality, that is because you are meant to be a creator of it. Welcome to the Sound Body Initiative, a place for those who sense there's something deeper happening beneath the surface, and where lived experience meets between sound, body, and soul. Here we're talking creativity, consciousness, and real life inquiry, exploring what it actually means to be human right now. So slow down, tune in, and remember how connected we really are. I really believe we're experiencing this great disillusionment because Source, God, universe, our higher calling is asking us as conscious leaders to step the fuck up, because it's time that we rise as a collective, not through force, but through Source, right? Yeah, gotta love the rhymes. Oh man. So if you're listening to this right now, it is because you are a conscious leader. You have the power to influence the lives around you. So as we break this down and talk about what it feels like to return to Source, I want you to keep this in mind. What wisdom are you passing down to the next generation? And what stories will you tell our children? So if society is lost and disconnected, then that must mean that we in some way are lost or disconnected, or it is up to us to become so divinely connected that the world around us, that the other vibrations around us have no choice but to entrain with our stronger vibration of divinity. And that is the responsibility of a conscious creator. So last night I was reading a book, and I want to quote a couple of paragraphs from it because it so eloquently names what it is to, or rather, it names the purpose of returning to Source. And I listened to the author of this, Aaron Abke, speak, and he was speaking on this topic, and I had to get the book. And when I'm finished reading the book, I will offer my commentary on it. But right now, I've just gotten about a chapter in. I just started reading it last night. And it is called The Three Beliefs of Ego. It's by Aaron Abke. And essentially, it talks about how the ego is actually a system of false beliefs, and there are three core beliefs of the ego which keep us in a place of suffering. So in the introduction, he so beautifully writes, "Life is a journey of discovering our true self. We are not seeking perfection, for in God's eyes we are already perfect creations. It is only the reclamation of our wholeness, our inner divinity, that the arc of evolution bends towards us. Our suffering is a necessary framework that alerts our soul when we stray from the straight and narrow path, the path that leads us to true happiness and freedom. If there were no antithesis to happiness, no opposite feeling, we would not know that we have diverted from the narrow path to wander in the wilderness of delusion and ignorance. Likewise, without suffering, we would not know what happiness is. Our souls would be caught in a void of blankness, a meaningless existence of mundane experiences. We should thank God each day for the gift of suffering, for in truth, it is nothing but the guiding hand of grace. But make no mistake, suffering is meant to be transcended. It is the catalyst for an evolution of consciousness. All progress made in the evolution of consciousness is due to the suffering of the soul. All suffering of the soul comes from false thinking, and if false thinking and perceiving felt pleasant, our souls could never come to know their true nature. Thankfully, the false thinking always feels like suffering, and the first being the cause, the second its effect. Therefore, to transcend suffering is to transcend false thinking. So we're asking to transcend the illusions of this world that's been constructed through ego, for ego, in service to ego. Now, the closer that we become to source, we are no longer outsourcing our intelligence. The great master taught us that heaven is within. Humans created as the ultimate technology. There are great teachers like Joe Dispenza who teaches that every chemical we seek from the outside world can actually be created naturally within us based on our state of coherence, based on our state of alignment, oneness, unified thoughts within our being. So that means that we as humans have the innate ability to heal ourselves simply by being in alignment. So that means as we return to source, the more that we heal ourselves, the more that we come into alignment with our true divinity, away from our false thinking, one by one, we in turn are healing the world because we are the world. You know, it sounds cheesy, but like, it's true. You know, we are the world. We are the children. We are what makes up the society that we live in. The responsibility of changing cannot fall on anyone else but our own shoulders. And that's where the accountability part comes in. Our thoughts, our emotions, our actions, this all creates reality. So the question is, how do we remain steady in a society that bombards us with ego, that bombards us with gloom, with false thinking, with illusions? How do we remain true to ourselves and to our divinity without becoming hateful or bitter or disconnected? How do we become the stronger vibration? And this is something that I talk about a lot. So let's get to the root. We start with the foundation. First of all, everything is born with innate intelligence. No one has to teach you how to breathe, how to eat, how to grow, how to crawl, how to walk. You just do them because you are designed with something that compels you to thrive. It compels you to move forward and evolve. So we're talking divine intelligence here. What is source? Okay. A noun. A person or thing from which something comes into being or is derived or obtained. It is the point of origin. So in order for us to return to source, we must strip away the illusions which kept us from it, the things that kept us constricted in a state of false belief. So seeing the disillusionment, or rather seeing the illusions, that's kind of the easy part. I think we all have this innate wisdom where, you know, we can kind of call it our bullshit meters. You can tell when something's off. But the tricky part is that the systems, the structures of illusion, they have this way of just getting us caught in this loop, right? So let's put a little light on that, shall we? Because the shadow is what the powers that be like to play upon. So two things happen when people become disillusioned, okay? When structures fall away, people will often grasp for new authority, a new structure system, a new definition, instead of actually trusting their own intuition. The nervous system seeks safety through familiarity, even when familiarity no longer serves them. But we are pattern recognizing systems. So oftentimes when we are letting go of external frameworks, this increases uncertainty and our stress responses because we're no longer recognizing the pattern. And so people will fall into a new cyclical reconditioning that is essentially just supporting the old illusions or new set of illusions that, are again just feeding false belief and ego consciousness. So the other thing that happens, and two, consciousness work can become another identity to perform, another illusion of self. High vibe language will often mask avoidance. It'll hide grief and turn into unresolved trauma. And what happens is expansion without embodiment creates disconnection once again. So rather than becoming more connected, people will, almost numb out on this consciousness work and just kind of go into, well, nothing matters and nothing's real, and go into this la la land. And I gotta say, I teeter on the edge of that la la land, because there is a very fine line of being aware of external realities and also staying so focused on the straight and narrow path, that path of light and oneness, that you almost have to turn a blind eye to the suffering that is created in the world. So it is a very fine line of staying disconnected and connected. And I think that's where a lot of people can get caught up, and that really is just not integrating. It leaves another form of separateness. So, chasing this transcendence often disconnects us from the body, disconnects us from our fellow man, disconnects us from what is true and present in all things. And disconnection can, momentarily it can feel like peace, but it's actually lacking physiological connection and regulation. And so both of these traps, be it grasping to new structures or disassociating from everything, they seem like a solution, but in reality, they're just the same cyclical illusions that continue the karmic cycle forever and ever until the end of time. And I don't know about you, but I'm getting very tired of watching this same story play out over and over again with humanity. It's like, so frustrating, right? So we have to get back to a state of remembering, because we were all born without the program that was eventually inflicted on us through our upbringing. So let's talk about what source actually feels like, because the body is the gateway to remembering. A lot of people think that source, oneness, divinity is like this euphoric state, like ecstasy. That's why we have all these people chasing drugs, because really they're just trying to get back to God. And it's true. God is a complete state of joy and loving awareness, but it is not a state of overwhelming euphoria. It is present. It's grounding. It feels like home. It feels like your body being held completely, like a mother or a father holding their child. That's what it reminds me of. And I just want you to let that sink into your imagination, that feeling, that presence of being held. And just feel into that for a second and notice that source coming through you. It is found in every breath, every rhythm, every sight, sensation, every listening, because it is inherently in all things. There is a quote that I heard, and I tried to find the author of it. I cannot find it. I think it's a native proverb. I couldn't tell you who told it to me. It may have been God himself who whispered it to me. But it goes like this. Every encounter you have is a direct conversation with God. Because God, source consciousness, divine intelligence is in all things, be it a rock, a tree, a child, or our enemy. And now the key word here is conversation. That is the vibrational resonance experienced between two things. There is the sound body initiative. So let's talk about the sound connection. Sound, vibration, returns us to source by organizing our attention and anchoring awareness into our body. That is why simple tones and rhythms often access more truth than complex teachings or techniques. The feelings that can be communicated through a simple melody or simply the cadence of someone's voice are able to communicate such deep understanding within us. And rhythm activates non-verbal learning centers in the brain. So these are subconscious areas that function beyond the realm of logic and cognitive awareness, such like the profound notion of source consciousness. There is no logic. There are no words to describe it. The Tao says that the way is in all things. The way is that which cannot be explained. So these repetitive rhythms, repeating vibrations, sensations of resonance, they all support our nervous system regulation and a state of coherence. And if you don't know what coherence is when two wavelengths that are harmonious in nature, when they meet, they actually become wider and expand further and further and further outward. And when they're in a state of incoherence, when two dissonant waveforms come into contact, they actually cause the wavelengths to become shorter and shorter and just fizzle out. So, and then, of course, we have the principle of entrainment, which is a simple law in physics that whenever multiple oscillating wavelengths or patterns are in the same vicinity of one another, they'll actually start to entrain or sync with one another in order to function more harmoniously in their environment. You've seen the little examples of the ticking clocks or the metronomes. They start at different oscillating patterns, and then after a few moments, they start to sync up. And so that's what we're doing all the time as vibrational beings. Isn't it amazing? It's amazing. It's amazing. So this is why vibration is both medicine and a weapon. This is how incoherence and states of dissonance actually are used against us by putting us into these states where our vibrations can't actually go further and wider like they're supposed to. They introduce these incoherent states and bring us into these states of friction that we can't actually move forward and evolve. So that's what we're trying to do here, folks. You know, that's the whole point of us coming together as human beings in this time and space. And, you know, sound and music, it doesn't have to automatically take you into this other dimension, and you don't have to all of a sudden come into these. It's not the only way to come into a state of coherence and oneness. There are so many ways to do this. And so I ask, when was the last time that you felt most connected without actually trying to be spiritual? Think about that. And now that is your path back to remembering. So what is remembering? We say this word a lot. There's a difference between seeking and remembering. Seeking assumes that something is missing. The ego hides inside of searching because the mind is a rational machine. It has to come up with solutions in order to compartmentalize our reality. So we can't seek without. We have to remember within. You see, these chronic states of overthinking and over-seeking and looking outside of ourselves, these are actually loops that we are stuck in. Whereas when we remember, it activates our nervous system and activates a sense of safety and familiarity in our bodies, allowing for deeper integration. And so what is integration? Integrate is a transitive verb. It means to make into a whole by bringing all the parts together. It is another term for unity. And you can tell when you are remembering and when you are returning to source because it feels so familiar. It feels like coming home. And for those who have never actually felt at home, I talk to a lot of people, myself included, who has always felt like home was somewhere else. Family never felt safe. But when you return to source and the familiarity of home returns to you, it is such a profound experience because you would think, how could you remember a feeling that you've never had in this life? This is source. There's a reason that people are moved to tears when they find God. So how do we integrate? Returning to source doesn't erase our shadows. It includes them. It loves them. They say that if you want to cast out darkness, you must show it love. Because all darkness is, all ego is that which is removed from source. And what is source but love? So if you want to return it to source, you must show it love. Because this presence, this is why they call it the Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Holy Spirit. And when we show this love to the parts of us, whether within or without, we're able to come to full resolution, return to the holding and the remembering and bringing us back home. So returning to source isn't about finding something new. It's about remembering what was never lost. And because this is the Sound Body Initiative, music is our companion through this disillusionment. Music is our anchor and our tool for reaching new states of consciousness and transcending our suffering, right? Because rhythm doesn't require belief. Music meets you where you're at. It doesn't explain, it accompanies you. And of course, it reduces cortisol levels, increases oxytocin, making it easier to let go of the tension and tap in to your divine awareness. These rhythmic patterns restore safety in our body and are able to hold us through these identity shifts. And this is something that I really take great care for when I'm putting together music for people to listen to. I think that's something that has always been this underlying familiarity in music for me, is that it's always felt like home. It's always felt like my mission to hold others through music. And so it's a great gift. So as we close off, as we take a deep sigh, it's a lot. I want to take a moment to remember how connected we really are. So if you're able to, and you're in a safe place, if you can, close your eyes. If not, that's okay. But I want you to notice your breath. I want you to notice how easily it ebbs and flows without any permission. Notice how your body survives without your consent. It simply exists, performing all of its functions without any sort of schedule or daily reminders. Notice the rhythms of your heartbeat, never failing to keep in time with one another. Notice how you were birthed with every cell needed to sustain your life. There was nothing more that you were asked to acquire after coming to this earth ship. Even if you came here with a couple of loose screws, as many of us do, you still managed to grow and evolve from one version of yourself into another without permission, simply through your own knowing. Notice how when you slow down and you simply become aware, nothing is wrong. There's nothing missing. Notice the wholeness of your being, the sensations in your body, and the unwavering sense of unity within your system, functioning in harmony with one another. Gratitude on the Most High, for we are alive and one. So if you're still listening, if you're still feeling, if you're still remembering, I'm happy that we found each other here on this path, returning to source. There is a reason that we all came here together. So until next time, my friend, keep up the light.
If you're listening to this broadcast, it means that you are a leader for a new way of living as humans. Hitting follow and subscribe doesn't just support me as an independent, but it supports our collective evolution, because the more people that tune into this content, the more it can reach to broaden our awareness and expand conscious thought. Plus, don't forget to integrate this week's music medicine into your practice, because the body is the gateway to your subconscious. You can find me on YouTube at JRio Music or SoundCloud at Jessica Rio Music, or simply by searching Sound Body Radio. If you love listening and tuning in, please reach out to me on Instagram to share your thoughts at Sound Body Initiative, and let me know what topics you want to expand upon in the next show. So remember, this isn't just a podcast. This is a transmission and a gateway to your own higher calling.